Hello and welcome. Today we are talking about a type of book that I think every reader could use at some point, and that is palate cleanser books. So if you've ever read a really heavy, thick novel, or even just heavy in content, or you're kind of feeling like you're in a reading slump, or you're a mood reader and you're like, I'm not sure what I'm really in the mood to read, these are books that I think will help renew and refresh your reading life. The first category that I want to share is mysteries. And I don't hear a lot about Mary Higgins Clark on booktube, but I grew up reading her mysteries. And I think if you're interested in mysteries, then going back into her backlist from like the 80s and 90s is a really great way to kind of get yourself restarted. And while these can be scary, I mean, they are kind of thriller murders, they are clean and wholesome. She doesn't have a lot of gore and violence and, cursing and all of that. They're considered pretty clean books. The one that I remember most strongly is Loves Music, Loves to Dance. In this, we have two girls who are writing a documentary or creating a documentary together where they talk about people who answer personal ads, where they're researching people who answer personal ads. And so one of the girls has her friend answer a personal ad. And unfortunately, her friend ends up found unalived in an alley, and she has a dancing shoe on one of her feet. And so they realize there's a connection between the ad of Loves Music, Loves to Dance that she answered and the fact that this has happened to her. And so then her friend, I think, is like so guilty because she was the one who kind of encouraged her to do it. But little does she know that she is the next target. So I remember being so scared by this, but just kind of turning the pages. And again, I think, Mary Higgins Clark is known for kind of having that psychological thriller and not so much of like the horror element. So if you want something to like rejuvenate it, then I would recommend picking up a Mary Higgins Clark and trying it. Another mystery that I have loved that is more modern is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. This is by Jessie Sutano. I read it a couple years ago and loved it so much. I will say, as a caution, I also started to read the second book, but it just felt too young and modern for me for kind of what I was looking for. So I ended up not finishing it. But the first one I loved. In this, we have Vera Wong, who is a mother. She very much fits the stereotypical Asian mother relationship with her son. She owns a tea shop in San Francisco. Anyway, she comes downstairs one morning and finds a body in her tea shop. And she decides that she is going to be a detective and try to figure out who the killer is. And it's so funny. She's befriending all of the people who are potentially the ones who did this. And she's so very motherly, and it's just a really fun romp. And again, one where there's a lot of character building if you like that, but the plot of you kind of trying to figure out who did it is keeping you with the page turning. So those are two mysteries that I think could kind of help jumpstart you back into reading if you're looking for a mystery type book. Next, if you are kind of looking for more like food oriented story, you kind of like the either travel idea or just kind of a food setting, I have two recommendations. First one is Midnight at Blackbird Cafe by Heather Weber. I love Heather Weber. I recently read one of her latest books, and it could be one of my favorite books this year. I loved it that much. But Midnight at Blackbird Cafe is phenomenal. And again, I think it's a great palate cleanser. So in this, you have Anna Kate. Every one of Heather Weber's stories that I've read has been set in the South. So I think that's something that she does. And so, of course, we've got the two names with the Anna Kate. She's coming back to Wicklow, Alabama. Her grandmother, Granny Z, has passed away and left her Blackbird Cafe to Anna Kate. And Heather Weber does have magical realism in her books. There's sort of these just small little like unexplainable incidents that happen in these small towns, and the townspeople really just kind of accept it. They're like, oh yeah, that just happens. So this is very sweet and, feels very like down home, and everybody in the town sort of says what, they're thinking, and there's this little romance that happens, and there's a mystery where, kind of around somebody in the town of like where they came from, like who their heritage was, who their parents were, so that kind of a thing. And all through that, we've got these pies being baked at the cafe that we are a part of that have these abilities that the townspeople really rely on. So it's just this sweet, wholesome, I remember it kind of being hot in the South kind of a setting. And again, you've got this page turner. It's not as fast paced, I think, as like a Mary Higgins Clark would be, but it is very much something that you get into and you get attached to the townspeople. And so just a sweet read and great to just kind of restart yourself. Another one, if you like a travel memoir type style book and also want more of that baking. So there is baking of pies in here, but there's even more of food oriented. And that is A Year in Provence by Peter Mayle. This is the story of it's almost like a British expat and his wife who decide to move to Provence for a year. And they end up in this house that needs work. And so it's like their struggles with getting the staff to come in and work. One of the examples is there's all these like wealthy summer people who come there for the summer, and they decide in the spring, like, oh, we need work on the house. And they pay so much money that the workers kind of leave the jobs that they had been doing and hurry up and kind of work on the wealthy people's house because that's like an influx of money. So there's those kinds of issues. You've got people who are visiting from other places. There's a lot in there about the food and kind of what they're eating in that area. And I listened to it as an audiobook. It is read by a British male reader, and it feels like you're reading someone's travel journal, like you're just listening to somebody who is talking about their experience of living in Provence in a year. And so it's not like super fast paced, or, there's not a huge mystery. It's just kind of a thing that you can listen to while you're doing laundry and just kind of imagine yourself, if you had the opportunity to go and live in Provence in a year and kind of what you would come up across, and just this like someone telling you a story. So I really enjoyed that. And I do think that as far as an audiobook, is a good, just kind of calming, relaxing way to pull reading into your daily life. Imagine if you're just folding laundry and like hearing about somebody's life in Provence. It's just great. Another way to bring in, something that's a little bit different maybe than what you have been reading. It feels a little bit more refreshing. To me, it's like a guilty pleasure. It's a little, can be salacious. And that is to read a royal family biography. So I have mentioned that I like to read the Grace Kelly Princess of Monaco biographies. I find her life to just have a lot of entertaining aspects to it, and I just find her life to be fascinating and intriguing, but any royal family biography would do. I also read Spare, which is Prince Harry's memoir, and that is quite salacious and has, a lot of scandalous things to it. He's got drug abuse and mentioning of body parts and other things. So if you're looking for something that feels a little bit like, like I said, a guilty pleasure of like taking a peek into a lifestyle that is so very different from, at least for me, from my own, then a royal biography is definitely the way to go. You can also do the audio version where Prince Harry reads it himself. So to me, it's just quite entertaining and intriguing, and something, again, that can kind of help bring a refreshing, different kind of a reading experience maybe than what you've been reading over the past few months of this year. Another category is romance, and I am admittedly not the biggest romance genre fan, but I wanted to mention two that I think are good ones to read if you haven't been reading a lot of romance, you're not really into it, but what you have been reading you're kind of tired of and you want something changed or different. The first one is Lakeshire Park by Megan Walker. She did write Miss Newberry's List, but I actually prefer Lakeshire Park. In this, we have Amelia Moore. She is really wanting to secure a good, solid marriage with wealth so that she and her sister are taken care of. And she gets an invitation to Lakeshore Park for a house party. And when she arrives, she discovers that there are people there that could help kind of get her established and have this be a reality. But she comes across Mr. Peter Wood, and he is trying to do the same thing for his own sister. So he also wants her taken care of. He's also looking for a match. And so Amelia and Peter kind of start to have a competition, go head to head, and really kind of trying to secure, the wealthiest person for the safety of their family. And of course, she and Peter, through butting heads, develop a healthy respect for each other. This is not super fast paced. We're not having like this huge page turner, but because it is set at a, house party with that whole kind of setting, it is very finite. We have a certain period of time and we really are kind of marching forward under pressure for Amelia. So this is just kind of a sweet, wholesome Regency style romance that I think is engaging and something that can just kind of be settling and calming to read. But if you're looking for a little bit more excitement, with a similar plot, we have A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin. In this, we have Kitty Talbert. Kitty is a mess. She and her sisters are going to be kicked out of their home in, I think, 12 weeks' time. And so, again, she's under so much pressure where their family needs to find a good match. And so she enters London society with this idea of, needing to find a match. But we have Lord Radcliffe, who is fully aware of what Kitty is trying to do, and he can kind of see her, social machinations for what they are, and he decides that he wants to try to thwart her at every turn. This one is hilarious. There's so much banter and hijinks. It is definitely more fast-paced than this one, and kind of more of like a lighter read that you can read through faster, if that's what you're looking for. So I think both of these, if you are interested potentially in a romance, but not anything that's like super heavy romance and has a lot more like of humor and circumstances in it, then I think either of these options would be fantastic. And then last, if you're looking for something that is calming and a little bit slower, maybe you've been like reading through things really fast, or you don't have a lot of time right now and you just want to kind of read through something a little bit each day, then these are two options. The first one is Gift from the Sea. This is by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, who is Charles Lindbergh's wife. If you're not aware, Charles Lindbergh is like this famous pilot, but their family had a terrible tragedy because he was so famous. His son was kidnapped, and it was a horrifying experience for them to lose their son. It was really awful. And yet Anne wrote this very heartwarming series of essays. It feels a little bit like a memoir style. It's like her thoughts on things, but she has like different stories to read that you can kind of go through at a certain time. So like here, she has here the channeled whelk. And then she's got a moon shell. And so in this, she talks about marriage and life and how to get through things and where she was when she wrote this. So this is just very, again, heartwarming, sweet collection of essays, stories from Anne. And I think will just encourage your heart. And then, this is a little bit unusual. This is Rainer Maria Rilke's Stories of God. So he wrote this when he was really young. I think he was 23 when he wrote this. And it is very different from his other collection of essays and poems in that it feels a little bit more like, I don't think folklore is the right word, but he's essentially sharing his experiences from, up until that point in his life of seeing God. And it is not your traditional way of seeing God. It's not, wrapped in traditional infrastructure. It is more kind of his experiences of seeing God. And they feel a bit irreverent, to be honest. It feels a little bit like, unusual and quirky and unexpected, but I have such an appreciation for his ability to work through what he kind of saw and to be able to see God in that and to be able to continue developing a relationship with God through that. So this was something where I just read a little bit each day, each story. They're kind of separate vignettes that he is sharing of his experience, and just I think very thought-provoking and poignant stories. So either of these, as far as like just chipping away at it each day, I think might be helpful in kind of, again, busy reading times, or, you're not really sure what to read, and so you just want to kind of read a little bit at a time, then either of these would be great options. So let me know when you kind of need something that doesn't feel like a complex story. You're not jumping into a huge long series, or you're not jumping into this heavy, mature content kind of a story. What are the books that you're reaching for? I know I have comfort reads, and comfort reads are absolutely a great way to get out of a reading slump, where it's a book you love, you've read it before, you know what to expect, so you can kind of sit back and relax. I know for me, The Blue Castle by L.M. Montgomery is one of those where it just feels very safe and comfortable and kind of something that I can jump into at any point in the year and enjoy. So I would love to know what your books are for those kinds of seasons in your reading life. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time.